The Conjuring is a 2013 American supernatural horror film directed by James Wan, based on the alleged true story of Ed and Lorraine Warren, who were famous paranormal investigators who decided to rescue a family dealing with a dark, haunted evil spirit. The film follows the story of the Perron family, consisting of Roger and Carolyn Perron and their 5 daughters, who move into a secluded farmhouse in Harrisville, Rhode Island in 1971. Soon after moving in, the family experiences disturbing and inexplicable events, including unexplained noises, strange occurrences, and paranormal activity that escalates into a horrifying ordeal. Was it based on a true story? What really was the story all about? Was it really some dark evil spirit? The first movie, which centers on the Perron family, is where the true story of The Conjuring starts. The Perron family moved into a 14-room farmhouse in Harrisville, Rhode Island, in January 1971. Almost soon after their arrival, Carolyn, Roger, and their 5 daughters started to observe unusual things happening. It began modestly. The broom would disappear or appear to move around on its own, and Carolyn would notice. When no one was home, she would occasionally hear something scraping on the kettle in the kitchen. She would discover little clumps of dirt in the middle of a freshly mopped kitchen floor. Though for the most part they were benign, soon the girls started to see ghosts in the house. However, a couple of them were incensed. According to reports, Carolyn looked into the house's past and learned that 8 generations of the same family had lived there. Many of them had passed away in eerie or terrible circumstances. A handful of the kids had committed suicide by hanging themselves in the attic. 1 had been killed, and several had drowned in a nearby creek. Bathsheba, the spirit shown in the movie, was the worst of all of them. According to Andrea Perron, the oldest of the 5 girls, whoever the spirit was, she perceived herself to be mistress of the house, and she resented the competition my mother posed for that position. It turns out that Bathsheba Sherman, a genuine person, did indeed reside on the Perrons' land in the middle of the 19th century. Although no trial ever occurred, there was evidence that she had been involved in the killing of a neighbor's child, and that she had been a rumored Satanist. In the heart of Harrisville, she was laid to rest in a neighboring Baptist cemetery. After investigating, the Perrons were sure that they were being tormented by Bathsheba's ghost. Andrea claims that the family also encountered ghosts that smelled like decaying flesh and caused mattresses to lift off the ground. When her father entered the cellar, according to her, he would feel a cold, stinking presence behind him. They'd frequently avoided the cellar's dirt floor, but Roger would occasionally venture down when the heating system would inexplicably break down. In desperation, they seek the help of Ed and Lorraine Warren. Renowned paranormal investigators, Ed Warren, a veteran of World War II and a former police officer, became a self-described demonologist after independently researching the issue. His wife, Lorraine, asserted that she was a medium and clairvoyant who could communicate with the demons that Ed had uncovered. Also, the New England Society for Psychic Research, the oldest ghost hunting organization in New England, was established in 1952 by Ed and Lorraine. They uncovered that the house is haunted by a malevolent entity with a dark history. As the Warrens dig deeper into the case, they realize that the Perron family is in grave danger and must confront the evil presence before it consumes them all. The Warrens visited the house numerous times over the course of their 10-year residence. Lorraine once tried to communicate with the ghosts that were controlling the family by holding a seance. Carolyn Perron was possessed during the seance and started speaking in tongues while standing up in her chair. Andrea asserts that she observed the scene covertly. Andrea remarked, "I felt I was going to pass out." My mother started using a voice that was not her own in a language that was not of this planet. She was tossed across the room as her chair floated. Lorraine asserts that she and her husband would never attempt a seance, even if the movie's account of the events ends with Ed executing an exorcism rather than a seance. Roger expelled the Warrens after the seance because he was concerned about his wife's mental soundness. Andrea claims that the family stayed in that house because of their precarious financial situation until they were able to relocate in 1980. However, the Conjuring movie series, which centers on Ed and Lorraine's experiences summoning demons from 2 possessed families, has greatly popularized their 2 most well-known instances. The Warrens insist that all of the events portrayed in the films genuinely happened, despite the fact that they seem overly dramatic and impossible to believe. Lorraine, who served as a consultant on the movie even after Ed passed away in 2006, asserts that she forbade the filmmakers from using more dramatic license than was absolutely necessary. Well, another family in Enfield, England, started having similar experiences 6 years after the Perron family was terrorized by their demon. The Hodgson family first noticed weird occurrences in August of 1977. Janet, who was 11 at the time, remembered getting out of bed to watch her brother's dresser move across the room they shared. "We yelled, 'Mom! Mom!'" recalled Janet. "We felt a little scared but yet curious." Later, the family started hearing knocking coming from various locations throughout the house. She recalls her mother phoning the police to investigate because she believed there were burglars or drifters hiding out in their house. The responding officer reported seeing a chair stand up and move by itself across the floor. They were also personally experienced by Daily Mirror reporters who had been sent in to cover the Enfield haunting. There have been reports of Legos and marbles flying about the room and being hot to the touch. On tabletops, folded clothing would spring off of them and fly across the room. The lights would flicker, coins would fall out of thin air, dogs would bark in empty rooms, furniture would twirl or topple over without being touched. Then, one day, someone tore out the iron fireplace from a bedroom on the second floor. Following that, paranormal researchers from all over the world manifested with claims of being able to communicate with spirits and a desire to learn more about the Enfield haunting. The Warrens were different from the majority of them, who came to the conclusion that the kids had been fabricating their stories because one of them had previously acknowledged doing so. When they arrived, they thought there was a demonic presence there. Their accusations, however, were disregarded since Ed Warren was accused at the time by a well-known skeptic of exaggerating and even inventing occurrences, frequently transforming a haunting into one case of demonic possession. The account deviates from the movie here since the Warrens didn't engage in any exorcism-like activities. The hauntings unexpectedly stopped in 1979, 2 years after they started, despite the family's claims that they took no action to stop them. Talking about the movie, The Conjuring received favorable reviews when it was published in 2013. Its all-too realistic depiction of the demonic haunting of an innocent family in Rhode Island was lauded by critics. The majority of viewers believe that James Wan's vivid imagination was all that the film was, but let us tell you that The Conjuring's real-life inspiration came from Ed and Lorraine Warren's terrifying real-life experience. Did you know that The Conjuring was a commercial success, grossing over $319 million worldwide against a budget of $20 million? It was praised for its effective scares, atmospheric tone, and strong performances by the cast. The Conjuring claims to be based on a true story, with Ed and Lorraine Warren being real-life paranormal investigators who have been involved in numerous cases of alleged hauntings and possessions. However, the accuracy of the events portrayed in the film has been a subject of controversy and debate. While the film takes creative liberties for cinematic purposes, it is loosely inspired by the Perron family's alleged experiences at their farmhouse in Harrisville, Rhode Island in the 1970s, as documented by Ed and Lorraine Warren. The real Perron family claimed to have experienced paranormal phenomena, and the Warrens were reportedly involved in investigating the case and providing assistance. Have you ever experienced something horrible and evil? If yes, do not forget to spam the comment section with your horror incidents.